John Lithgow plays Harold Harper in the FX drama series The Old Man. I'm Matt Noble at Gold Derby, and I want to just kick things off, John, by asking you, what's at the heart of this show?
Well, at the heart of this show is, of course, mystery and suspense, but it's mystery and suspense in the whole world of international intrigue and spyware and action. What's unique about it is it involves old men, two old men, played by me and Jeff Bridges. And they're also played by two wonderful young actors, Bill Hecht and Chris. Oh my God! Of course, I've forgotten the name of the man who plays me as a young man. I've even forgotten myself as a young man. Besides which, we haven't been working on The Old Man for many, many months, even though people have been experiencing it.
Yeah.
No, he played two characters who were involved in international skullduggery about 30 years ago. We sort of colored outside the lines, did some well-intentioned but not very legal things, got in a lot of trouble for it, and had to basically disappear from each other's lives for 30 years. And then we were flung back together when news of this ancient mishap sort of reemerges. That's it in a nutshell. Two old men involved in a lot of international intrigue with very, very high stakes.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of a show in some ways, like told very differently, but it's even with the skullduggery and the cat and mouse of it all, some vibes of an old Emmy-winning drama series, The Fugitive, where you got someone on, which I really
the fascinating thing about this fugitive and his pursuer is that they are old friends. They were very, very involved with each other 30 years ago, and even earlier than that. They have a long, long history that simply came to a stop, and they had to deny that the other even existed until all of this has come about.
Yeah. So I hope you don't take any offense to this, John, but as an older man, have you learned, or as an old man, have you learnt new tricks on this show?
Have I learned any tricks?
Yeah, any new tricks? Can you teach an old man new tricks?
Oh, I think, acting, in the acting business, you're learning all the time. You're constantly given new challenges. I think by now, there's almost nothing I haven't tried. But what's very different about this role for me, Harold Harper, I think, is people who know my acting at all know me for excess and for kind of bold, playing very, very different characters in very, very different modes. If you think of me in movies like The Twilight Zone, or playing Winston Churchill or Roger Ailes, or Dr. Emilio Lizardo in Buckaroo Banzai, or Dick Solomon in Third Rock from the Sun. These are all very different, but very kind of highly performative roles. This is a man for whom everything is contained. He is an ex-CIA man who's now an FBI man. His entire career has been about being covert, being inconspicuous and contained and never showing anything. So it's an interesting piece of casting. And I found it, first of all, it was a wonderful relief, but it was also, I knew that this was a very different version of John Lithgow, someone where an awful lot is happening behind his eyes. And I loved it, particularly when I acted with Jeff, because that's when everything begins to seep out. And you begin to really learn what makes Harold Harper tick. All of these have just been fantastic and quite new challenges in a way.
And there really is, I think, as you watch this show, sort of like layers get revealed of characters, and not just of characters, but of relationships. Layers get peeled away. What was that like, sort of building on the character and revealing more, like sort of gradually as the series went on?
Well, of course, our work was done for us in many ways by our writers, particularly Jonathan Steinberg, the showrunner and lead writer on the series. We sort of knew that as the series went along, more and more would be revealed, like peeling the skin off an onion. So as you work on it, you're constantly thinking, okay, what do I keep secret and what do I reveal? It works wonderfully. I mean, the surprises, they sort of come like, oh my God, why didn't I notice that as the series unfolds? The plot is extremely complicated, as these things are. They're like an incredibly complex chess game where you have to take a half an hour between every move just to figure out what's going on. I have lots of friends who love the series, but they've had to watch it 2 times just to figure out what was going on. Of course, I acted in it months and months and months ago, so I can't even remember what's going on. So I have to watch it twice too.
Oh, this is good. Yeah. Is there what do you find was the most challenging thing with this role?
You know, the only really challenging acting is bad writing, and this is wonderful writing.
Oh yeah.
I did find that an awful lot is revealed in silence, and we
Mm.
worked with wonderful directors, starting with John Watt, but Greg Yatanis, marvelous people, who were all on the same page. They knew exactly how to proceed with this kind of very subtle and complex storytelling in which an awful lot is told in silence.
Yeah. And you talked a bit about some of the names of characters you have played over the years, from, like Winston Churchill to Dick Solomon. And your character in a wonderful scene, Harold in a wonderful scene, talks about how it's so hard to juggle different names, and how they can sort of, by having one name, what does he say? He says it's what keeps us having a name is what keeps us all from having to juggle the different people who we might want to be, which I thought was so interesting for coming from you, your character, when you're an actor who your whole job is juggling different names and characters and things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this profession, in the espionage business, yeah, there's a lot of acting involved, but nobody can see you act. You have to be extremely subtle. You have to really know how to blend in. So it's a good thing they have actors playing these parts. There is another neat device that Jonathan and company came up with. That's the character of Angela, played by Alia Shawkat, is just absolutely wonderful actress, young actress, and a wonderful person and friend. The fact that she is the protege of my character, and in a sense of Jeff's character, that means that in talking to her, I'm an FBI man and she is one of my subordinates. And I've taught her everything she knows, and it's a kind of teacher-student relationship. So in talking with her, I'm basically talking to the audience. I'm telling them an awful lot, not only about the plot, but about how people in our game operate. It's a wonderful device they come up with. And of course, both Alia and I have all these complicated emotional issues cooking along underneath all of the strategizing. The first time you see my character, you see that he is suffering. He has just suffered the greatest tragedy of his life. In his old age, in his 70s, he and his wife have lost their son and daughter-in-law in a car accident, and they are forced to take care of their 5-year-old grandson as if he's their own child. The first time you meet him is only 3 weeks after this has happened. That's that's what you learn immediately about Harold Harper. And in the middle of all that, he gets a phone call that reveals that, oh my God, this thing from 30 years ago has caught fire again, and I am in really serious trouble. I mean, think about that. Think about what I just said. All of that storytelling is told in the first 3 or 4 minutes that you see my character. And then off we go on this crazy ride.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's sort of, as you said, you're the scenes you have with Ali are fantastic in the show. It's like, what's it like, some of those relationships that so you got you and Jeff and you and Ali have some of the most compelling scenes, and what is it like when it's just sort of the two of you having to bounce off each other, whether that's Jeff or Ali?
And me and Alia, well, both of them are incredible acting partners. It's interesting because the story of making this series is almost as interesting as the series. You know, the story, as I've told you, the story involves two men who've been forced to keep their distance from each other for 30 years and pretend the other does not even exist. At one point, it's revealed that I literally didn't even know whether Jeff's character was still dead, alive or dead. And in the course of these 7 episodes of this first season, bit by bit, you see them getting closer and closer to being reunited and entangled with each other once again. But that takes 6 episodes to get to. So the tension mounts and mounts and mounts. What's interesting is we shot for about 2.5 months. I had not acted a single scene with Jeff, except for one long phone call in which he wasn't even on the other end of the line when I shot the scene. The script supervisor was simply feeding me his lines. So I hadn't acted with him at all. And suddenly COVID hit, and we shut down for about 10 months. And then we got back to work for about 3 or 4 days. I still hadn't worked with Jeff. And we got news of his cancer diagnosis, and we had to shut down for another 10 months. So it was like 1.5 years between beginning this work and then resuming it. When I went back to work again, it was only last February, I finally got to work with Jeff. We finally shot those scenes in which we finally meet up with each other. Well, that was 2 years after we'd started working. So, and that last 4 or 5 weeks of work, in which was all me and Jeff, that was just the most glorious time. First of all, he's just a wonderful man. I don't know whether you've had a chance to talk to him, but you can't not love Jeff Bridges. And he's a terrific actor. He's an effortless actor, just completely at home in his own skin. And we had a lot of work together. In the final episode of these 7, there's the signature scene is about a 20-minute long scene where we're stuck in a car together, crossing an entire country. And so that scene took 6 days to shoot. So that was 6 days in a car with Jeff Bridges. I mean, only 2 days we were actually driving. The rest of the time was on a soundstage, but it was like crossing the country in college with your roommate. It was just great. Yeah. We got to know each other so well, became such friends, and we created this terrific scene that we were so proud of.
Yeah, a lot of your great scenes are in cars or planes or trains in the series. Yeah, get you moving, and then there's some good stuff.
And
yeah,
you know, it's like, and once the plot kicks in, everything happens in real time. So I pointed out to Jonathan, I said, you do realize this man has not slept in 3 days, and he has worn the same suit in about 4 different countries. So take this into account. He hasn't shaved, and we had to be very careful to mark just how much my whiskers had grown in.
We've got I'm actually speaking with Jeff tomorrow. Do you have any questions that you think would be good for me to ask him?
Oh, just ask him how he's doing. Tell him I can't wait to get back to work. and ask him if he still remembers his character's name. I mean, that's been what's so crazy about this entire shooting schedule.
Yeah. John, it's just because you're leaning in a bit more now. Is it possible just to tilt the camera down a little bit? Just
Oh, yeah.
little bit. So you,
Sorry.
yeah, oh, no, it's fine.
That's better?
That's fantastic. So, yeah, like something I wanted to know is like, you have in your career, and you spoke about it at the beginning, you've done so many different sort of characters, from the sort of ridiculousness of Third Rock from the Sun to profound drama. For you as an actor, is there a through line from all those like different characters you've played, from, you know, dark serial killers to goofy, endearing aliens?
Well, you know, you go through the same process. You still, as Noel Coward said, the trick of acting is know your lines and don't bump into the furniture. Yeah. The basics are all the same. What's just wonderful about it, and what I've enjoyed so much about this nutty career of mine, is the variety that you just described. The wonderful thing is people, when you're lucky enough to play a lot of roles, all of which many of which get a lot of attention, you get very well known for a certain period of time. At the moment, I'm best known for The Old Man, but a couple of years ago, I was best known for Winston Churchill. And before that, the Trinity Killer in Dexter. And before that, Third Rock from the Sun. Every role, when you score like that, it tends to sort of obliterate the memory of everything you just did before. Yeah. And it completely takes people by surprise and upends their expectations. And that, to me, is the whole fun of acting. The operative word in acting is surprise, taking people by surprise. And, you know, in my greatest ambition always when I start a role is to be as different as possible from what people expected or what I just did.
Yeah, I like that. Is there like, because Third from the Sun, you won 3 Emmys for that role, John. Is there something you learnt from that experience that you've taken with you?
Well, you learn something from absolutely everything, but I don't know. I had done, it's funny because I had done a lot of nutty comedy in my day, but it was on stage, and like people knew me much more for when I did Third Rock. They knew me from World According to Garp and Terms of Endearment, you know, movie roles. So it was like, wow, what is this? Suddenly I was playing for a live audience, you know, the studio audiences. It was really more theater than TV or movies. And just people had this great kind of, I don't know, they were just seeing a completely different character. What I learned from that is just how fun it is to take people by surprise.
Yeah. And I think like that was my introduction to you, John. That was that was when I was growing up. The sort of one of the first sort of sitcoms I watched. So I guess I wasn't surprised. I was more surprised when I saw some of the dramatic stuff later. And I do think your second Emmy win was for an episode, See Dick Run, where where Dick's evil, like another alien comes and you're trapped in a cage. And I just think it's one of the funniest, most bizarre, like Emmy-winning tapes there is. So,
I still love going back and watching Third Rock episodes. It was long ago now, so I've sort of forgotten all about them. Yeah. And it's like watching them for the first time. You vaguely remember doing all that stuff, and it's really, really funny.
Yeah. You said surprise is the greatest thing about acting, so I thought I'd end by asking you, what has been the greatest surprise for you with The Old Man?
Well, I honestly, it's a very pleasant surprise how people just think this is a fantastic show. When I was doing it, the show is so dense and complex, and half the time I was running across the soundstage to Jonathan to say, now, wait a minute, what's going on here? When you're acting in something like this, you're a little cog in a great big intellectual machine. And somehow, you just do your job. You play a scene and make the scene work and figure out your relationships and connections with whoever you're acting with. It's a very sort of contained process. You don't really have a sense of the whole flow or even the whole look of the series. So when I saw the series, I was thrilled and so surprised, and people telling me, my God, this is the best thing on TV right now. I was astonished. Because up until then, I really didn't know what we had created.
Yeah, no, very, very, yeah, that's fantastic, John. And look, it was Christopher Redmond's the actor that plays you as a young man.
Thank you
as well.
so much. And
yeah.
he does a really good job. Even I could tell, wow, this is a good version of me.
Yeah.
Chris Redmond. I can publicly apologize to Chris for forgetting his name. It's been a while, and I never did act with him. That would be an excellent Third Rock episode, but it wouldn't work in Third Rock in The Old Man for old Harold to meet his young self.
Well, John, thank you so much for talking to us today. I won't make you do this, but I'll give you a salute.
There great. You go. you have a lot more hair than I had even back then, so it works much better for you.
Well, I wouldn't know. I think I don't think it works. I think you had just the right amount of hair for the salute. John,
I choose to take that as a compliment.
Yes, and I think all the best of luck with the upcoming awards for The Old Mans. And for the Emmys next year as well. It's all happening, and thank you for spending the time for talking with us today. People watching this can go to goldderby.com and follow awards and stuff. John, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're so good at this. Thank you a lot.